Hi, it's Dwyer, dwyervip.com. Remember, my cat's upset here in the background, not as upset as I am. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. If you're into fantasy sports, football, baseball, basketball, for new accounts on FanDuel.com, the promo code is Dwyer777. Get the deep discount, save some money, give yourself a break. Now let's just say this Canelo fight has ended in no beer for me. Right? I got roughed up, worse than my cat here. I got roughed up in this fight. The fight went over the 7.5 rounds. I didn't want that. Once it got past the 7.5 round mark, I was hoping to get 6-1 odds on Liam Smith. Right? Did not get that. Right? Liam Smith was battered, beaten up, dropped multiple times, and stopped in the 9th round. Now let me just say this. Just a couple of observations. The knock on Golovkin after this Kell Brook fight is that he's supposed to be over-eager, right? He's supposed to be a little bit too aggressive. He's supposed to, at times in that fight, have looked a bit sloppy, right? That's the argument, that he was a bit sloppy. He left himself open. Kell Brook landed some shots. He seemed a bit off, right? A little bit too aggressive. But the one thing you don't hear about Golovkin, the one thing you don't see in Golovkin fights, is Golovkin taking parts of rounds off, right? Having his back up against the ropes as an opponent comes over and starts to rough him up, right? Nobody says that about Golovkin. You don't see parts of Golovkin fights where a guy's in front of him giving him the business. Now, what I want people here in this fight, and I know it's reported differently, whatever. What I want people to do in this fight, if you look at one round of this fight, and I've placed the fight in my favorites folder here online, right? A link to the fight. If you look at one round of the fight, look at the 9th round. Isn't that the big round where Liam Smith gets drilled and he's down and the ref waves off the fight? Well, let me just say this. What I want you to notice is that there's a stretch of that round. Canelo starts the round great. You see why he's a great fighter early in that round. He looks spectacular, right? But then you get, in the same round, you get the part of the round where Liam Smith backs him up against the ropes. It's with about 1:10 left in the round. You'll notice Canelo has his back up against the ropes. Liam Smith is basically on his front foot roughing up Canelo, and Canelo comes up with a great left hand to the body that ends the fight. Right? The problem I have with Canelo is Canelo takes parts of rounds off, right? The end of the 4th round, Canelo's up against the ropes. In the 5th round, Canelo is getting a bit of the business, right? The first knockdown, Liam Smith is in front of Canelo and has Canelo backed up against the ropes. Now understand, I know in boxing history, right? Some great fighters knew how to fight off the ropes, right? I know Salvador Sanchez against Wilfredo Gomez early in that fight, right? Obviously the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali Foreman, right? Floyd Mayweather up on the ropes against Ricky Hatton, great. But I'm a bit surprised when I see Canelo up on the ropes, because I really get the feeling that it's not so much strategy as it is fatigue, as it is pacing. I know the guy looks great, right? Hard to find any body fat on Canelo. But then I see Canelo taking parts of rounds off. Let me go one step further and say, and don't get me wrong, this was a great performance by Canelo. Let me talk about the positives here, right? Great body work. Very hard to find better body punchers in the sport of boxing. Right? Excellent uppercut. Like Carl Froch, he can lead with the uppercut. Right? He leads with power shots, which always impresses me. He has spectacular power. No question about it. Right? He's a puncher. Something hit Liam Smith several times in this fight that had him on the canvas, an unbeaten fighter, on the canvas multiple times, right? Amir Khan counted out in Canelo's fight against Amir Khan. Canelo has one-punch knockout power, right? And Canelo is pretty savvy. The combinations, you know, he'll do things like throw an uppercut, then with the same hand come back and hit you in the body. Canelo's very clever. But wow, aren't you disturbed by the fact that this young man takes parts of rounds off? Aren't you disturbed by the fact that even in the 9th round, where he gets a stoppage, he starts great, you're looking at him start great, you say, wow, Liam Smith is in trouble, then suddenly Liam Smith takes over the round. I know that's not how it's being reported. All I'm asking you to do is to look at the actual fight. Right? So, we've gotten a lot of politics. Right? Canelo, for some reason, is not fighting as a middleweight. He's at 154. Right? The water at 154 is deep. It's dangerous. Right? Now, the technique that Kell Brook used against Golovkin wasn't going to work against Golovkin, right? Because Golovkin has long power. Golovkin hits you from halfway around the ring, and that's what Golovkin does best. Why do we feel that Kell Brook's game wouldn't translate against Canelo? Right? Because Liam Smith, who makes mistakes in this fight, right? When Liam Smith opens up on the inside, he left himself open to the kind of punch that ended the fight, right? Liam Smith, twice in this fight, is on his front foot with Canelo on the ropes or close to the ropes when he gets hit with bombs and dropped, right? Liam needs to ask himself why, when he opened up, he didn't vary the angle and move his head a little bit, right? Rather, when he opened up, he was pretty stationary. It gave Canelo the perfect target to counter. Also, Liam Smith, the taller fighter, needed to realize that he's fighting a guy who's a great body puncher. Right? You don't stand upright against a guy like this, and you certainly don't stay in front of him the entire night. Right? So Liam made some mistakes. But let me say this. Kell Brook, hard to hit in the body. When Kell Brook backs up like he did against Golovkin, can Canelo catch up to him? Right? Understand, this fight's a little bit of an illusion because Liam Smith is an aggressive fighter. He's coming forward. It's not too often in this fight where you actually had to see Canelo find Liam Smith. Right? Canelo's foot speed, let's just say it doesn't dazzle you, right? Against a fighter who can move, right? Does Canelo look this way? Now, let's go one step further here. And I understand Kell Brook's talking about dropping back down to 147. Good luck with that. By the way, the happiest man to hear that news would be Errol Spence, right? Don't be surprised if Kell Brook doesn't say, hey, look, I took on Golovkin. I got praise for that fight. Canelo, take me on. Don't be surprised if Canelo doesn't look around the division and think to himself, Erislandy Lara, right, 154. Erislandy Lara, wow, that was a split decision. That was a close fight, officially a close fight. Canelo might say, no, I'm not going to travel down that road. Then if he looks over here and he sees Demetrius Andrade, who I think, just to be straight here, I've just been beaten by Canelo. I still think there are other guys who could beat Canelo. In his division, I think Andrade beats Canelo. right? Same thing. Guy's too fluid, moves too well, right? If a guy is fluid and moving well for the part of the round where Canelo's actually fighting, then when Canelo takes the customary 45 seconds off of every round, right? 45 seconds off for every 3-minute round, then the quick-handed moving guy can actually step in the pocket, let his hands go a bit, land some flurries, impress some judges, right? Have people thinking, gee, what did Canelo land in that round? Because I just saw, you know, Kell Brook or Andre or Erislandy Lara flashing some leather. Right? So, Kell Brook has to be careful. Let's go further, 154. Right? The Charlo brothers, both of them, would be a problem for Canelo. Vanes Martirosyan. I think that's an intriguing opponent for Canelo at 154. I know the people who believe that Canelo is the best in boxing pound for pound feel that I'm not giving him his respect. Right? Understand, we're holding Canelo up to this level of scrutiny because he's considered one of the best in the sport pound for pound. Right? We're comparing Canelo to Golovkin because these guys are on the list of the very best in boxing pound for pound. Nobody gets scrutinized more in boxing than the guys who are on the list of the best pound for pound. Right? Back in the day, people cared about Floyd Mayweather. People cared about Manny Pacquiao. People critiqued both of their games. Nobody's critiquing the journeyman fighter who no one expects to win against elite fighters. So, I give Canelo an A+ on the power. Right? His power's never been an issue for me. I give him an A+ on the power. I like Canelo's jab. I love Canelo's uppercut. I love Canelo's body attack. Right? Loved all of it. But again, what I didn't like, Canelo's stamina. He comes out great, folks. First round, Canelo's out there working, isn't he? But as you looked at the number of punches he threw in the first round, you knew he couldn't maintain it. You knew that, right? By the time we get to the end of the fourth round, Canelo has his back up against the ropes at parts of the round. That pattern continues pretty much the rest of the fight. Look where they are in the ring when the fight gets stopped. Right? Now, boxing, you know, all I can say is the rounds are 3 minutes. You're only as good in boxing as your worst moment. You could look great in a round. If you have your hands down and you get caught flush and you get dropped to the canvas, it's a 10-8 round against you. Right? Look at Canelo's defense. You're going to notice by the last 2 rounds, Canelo has his hands down. Right? Canelo's head's exposed. Now, it didn't matter against this opponent, Liam Smith. Right? Don't you think it would matter against Golovkin, against Kell Brook, against Lara in a rematch, against the Charlo brothers, against Vanes Martirosyan, against Demetrius Andrade? Right? So, I'll say this. Canelo is having a riveting career. This certainly was a great win. It's hard to find a guy with more charisma. The end of the fight, I haven't seen too many fights where a guy hits another guy with a body shot and is so certain that the fight is over that he jumps on the top rope and looks at the crowd. Right? He's that confident in his power. Canelo is a master showman. Right? Master showman. One of the few big box office draws in the sport. He just pulled over 50,000 people to Jerry Jones's Taj Mahal. Right? When the two fighters entered the ring, you could hear crickets. as Liam Smith entered the ring. Right? You got the feeling that Liam Smith didn't even have his own family in attendance. It was clear that the crowd came for Canelo. I'm not questioning Canelo's box office. Right? He's an elite draw. No question about it. I continue to question Canelo's stamina. I know I'm going to be called a hater. Right? Canelo can hit you from long range. But again, he's lower volume. Don't be fooled by the first round. Look at the math as the fight goes along. Look at Canelo's volume. He's lower volume. He ends up with his back up against the ropes. To me, he fights more like a 35-year-old than a guy in his 20s. Understand, young Ali wouldn't have been up against the ropes, rope-a-doping George Foreman. Right? That's something he did when he got in his 30s. Right? Floyd Mayweather, in his prime, against Diego Corrales, right, is unloading on him in the middle of the ring. It's when Floyd himself is a little bit older that Floyd starts to fight like he did against Marcus Maidana. Right? So, I just have questions about Canelo. Against faster, more fleet-footed, combination throwing opponents, I think he'd be in trouble. Right? I may not have picked Kell Brook against Golovkin, but against Canelo, I might. Let me find out about the weights. Let me see the condition of the fighters. I wouldn't want to see Kell Brook weighing 176 30 days before the fight. Right? But let's just say Kell Brook has a much better chance against Saul Alvarez than he did against Golovkin. And let's just say after seeing this fight, I'd still take Golovkin in a heartbeat over Saul Alvarez. Let me hear from you. If you feel I've mischaracterized the fight, if you feel I'm being too hard on Canelo, then I hope you leave those comments in the comment section to this video. Just tell us the rounds after the third round that you felt Canelo fought all 3 minutes of. Right? Educate all of us. I hope to read your comments in the comment section. Thanks for stopping by.